Hi everyone, thanks for listening into our recording today. Hopefully we'll get to see you at Ignite in person, but appreciate you logging online and taking a look through this video where we'll be talking today about how to unlock Microsoft Teams phone deployments in global multinational organizations. So we'll be talking through some of the benefits of moving to Teams Phone globally for multinationals, the benefits of doing so with a single underlying telephony partner as well, rather than a local partner, which tends to be the way in which multinationals are set up for telephony today. And then my colleague Zach will be talking through some of the more potentially complex integrations for moving telephony to the cloud and how we can help overcome those, all delivered within Microsoft Teams. So, quick introduction today. So I'm Andy Birch. I head up our global sales team at LoopUp, based out of London. So working with some of our biggest multinational customers, as well as some of our go-to-market partners who we resell and partnership with in the go-to-market team.
And hi everyone, my name is Zach Bennett. I'm Principal Architect at LoopUp and also Microsoft Teams MVP.
Very good. So first off, why do you need to achieve Teams calling coverage globally? Why does it matter? Why is it something that a multinational should even start to look at? And I think the first thing to acknowledge, really, and this is well known at this point, of course, but there has been a massive shift with how people utilize workplace communication tools over the last 5 years. The presence of fully remote or certainly hybrid working, feels like it's here to stay. As much as 72% of people do some degree of remote work, whether that's in a full-time or hybrid capacity. So clearly it's critical that communication tools fit that working pattern for people. And the other thing to look at here that's relevant to what we're talking about today is the fantastic adoption of Microsoft Teams. It has clearly become the dominant player for unified communications within organizations. And why this point matters really is to acknowledge that people need communication products that work wherever they are working. And given there is a dominant tool that they're using for unified communications, whether that's internal messaging, internal calling, meetings, messaging externally as well on Teams, it makes sense for that telephony product to fit into Microsoft Teams. So it is a no-brainer for organizations to make that move to Microsoft Teams Phone for their external calling. They also benefit, of course, from having those external calls within their Copilot. It's often the case that those external calls are some of the most important ones, whether they're with customers, suppliers, prospects. And if you're not utilizing Teams Phone, but you're looking to utilize Copilot to get insights out of your interactions, you'll be missing a critical piece of the puzzle. So utilizing Microsoft Teams Phone helps from an end user perspective. It unifies the way in which they use all communications. They're not using a separate interface for making and receiving external calls. It ensures that all of your communications are subject to Copilot and the benefits that that can give you in terms of efficiencies and insights and help you compete day to day against your rivals. And from an IT perspective, there's the opportunity to manage telephony centrally, much like you might manage Microsoft Teams more broadly. However, whilst it's a no-brainer to utilize Microsoft Teams Phone globally, in multinational organizations, telephony can remain pretty messy. It's often the case that there are multiple contracts, country by country, in a multinational organization with different suppliers, and that doesn't permit you to have efficiencies either in the contracting process nor in the pricing process. It also becomes very difficult from an operational perspective to manage lots of different telcos ongoingly, especially if you're looking to centralize things into teams. It doesn't make sense to do that with a patchwork of telco providers, that's going to add complexity to the onboarding, to the deployment, to the ongoing operation of working with those different partners. They'll all have their own support processes that you'll have to follow whenever you have an issue. So whilst the opportunity to manage telephony in Teams centrally makes a lot of sense, it's important to try and find a better way of doing it than interacting with individual telcos country by country, which is so often the way telephony is set up in the multinational setting. So this is where LoopUp comes in. We can be a single carrier globally. So we operate in more countries than any other Microsoft Teams telephony partner. So we have 66 countries live on Microsoft Operator Connect. We have 136 countries with which we can provide fully compliant PSTN calling. So whether that's Operator Connect or direct routing or global SIP trunks, that we are able to serve all countries for large multinationals, enabling them to move their telephony into the cloud, into Teams, all centrally managed. And the benefits that they can see are set out on this screen here. So that means that by partnering with LoopUp as the underlying carrier, you can have one global contract. So one set of negotiations and consolidation of contract with your telco partner. It's then neatly set up for future renewals and future go-to-markets. You have one global pricing schedule, so you can get better rates by tendering your full global telephony business rather than doing it in piecemeal. You can also benefit from LoopUp's flexible approach to pricing, where we can customize minute bundles based on your real usage to give you optimized minute bundles that ensure there's no wasted spend. We'll provide you with a management portal in the form of LoopUp One that will help complement what you can do in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center and allow you to manage and control telephony from a single pane of glass. This can be delegated to people who don't necessarily have access to the Teams Admin Center and can also be managed on a location basis. But here you can process your number of orders, you can do number porting, you can access your usage information, you can see for the first time your full global list of number inventories. You'll also benefit from a global voice network. So often in telephony, you're looking at, for international calls, telcos handing over that call as they transition it from one part of the world to another. It goes through numerous handovers. On the LoopUp voice network, we'll pull that onto our private network at the earliest opportunity, so very locally, and also break it out locally at the other end, passing it over a dedicated managed link in between. And that gives you a double whammy benefit of higher quality and lower cost when it comes to those international calls. And then lastly is the benefit of one global support team. Telephony doesn't have a great reputation when it comes to support anyway, but having to follow multiple different processes depending on which country you're in, to raise tickets with your different telcos isn't very sustainable given the role of telephony today. So by consolidating that down to a single process with a dedicated 24/7 service desk that we operate at LoopUp, it means that the whole operations of support can be massively streamlined. And you can get to the root cause of any issues in a rapid response time. So it feels like a no-brainer. Consolidate global telephony into Teams from a user experience perspective, but then also from the carrier perspective, from an operational, contracting, pricing perspective. There are massive benefits to be had by consolidating the global partner like LoopUp. I'll hand over to Zach now, who will talk through some of the challenging settings that you can come across in multinationals.
Cheers, Andy. Yeah, we're going to be talking around some of the complex communication needs that we found that our customers have had and how Microsoft Teams Phone can help with those particular issues. So why are we even talking about this subject? First of all, it can be kind of split into two camps when you're talking around Teams phone deployments. You have your standard PBX functionality, which is a real no-brainer when you're talking about Teams phone. These are your information users, receptionists, call flows, shared devices, that sort of thing. Teams phone is a great way to give those particular features to your user base, but one thing to mention, there are other workloads that tend to be tied to your current PBX and to PBXs that you may not know about. And basically, this is a little talk to say, don't discount Microsoft Teams in these particular scenarios. So some of these workloads that we're going to be talking about include fax, some analog devices, things like intercoms and paging, particular warehouse workers, and more contact center scenarios as well, which we can cover with the Q app that Microsoft has. So effectively, you don't have to keep around these legacy and aging PBXs to serve these particular needs. Microsoft and Microsoft Teams has you covered with the Teams phone. The first thing we'll mention is fax. Fax is one of those things your company either will rely on fax or it's not something that's used in your business at all. But if it's used, you're going to need to be able to send faxes through your business. So using a provider like LoopUp, we can help in a number of different ways. Way number one is rule it out of scope completely. Let's get away from fax and stop using fax. But if you do need to have fax around, there are a couple of different ways that can be delivered. One thing to mention is the Microsoft SIP gateway does not currently support fax. So if you're looking to utilize that, that is not something that can be done at the moment. So you have to use one of these other different options. One of those being electronic fax solutions. I've put a couple of different partners that LoopUp have worked with in the past, but it effectively is an email to fax kind of solution that you can have integrated with your Teams client. But for those scenarios where you have a physical fax machine on site, and you have a big printer that has fax capabilities that can't be removed from that site for whatever reason and can't be moved to electronic fax, there are ways that you can still deliver that. A partner like LoopUp, we have a Teams service and a SIP service alongside that. So we can keep these devices around. They don't have to be forgotten about or cause issues down the line. We can place an ATA on site and deliver your numbers directly to that device as well. So supporting your Teams customers, but then also these other workloads as well, like fax that may need to stay around. Some of the other devices that you may come across as part of your rollout or as part of your audit when you're ready to move to Teams phone are things like DECT. So if you have more like warehouse environments and you need DECT devices with things like man down scenarios, or you have poor Wi-Fi signal in particular areas, you can use DECT devices for that. You can have Wi-Fi phones like Android phones, which run the mobile Teams client on there, and you can hand those out to particular members of staff. There are standard desk phones, so Teams phones, you can have those, but then think of the more common area scenario. So things like kitchens or, reception phones, that sort of thing, hotline phones. These are all types of features that Teams can pick up. There's the ability to have an eSIM solution as well for Teams. So if you want to use your Teams number going through an eSIM solution, that's something you can do. If you have speakers overhead in warehouse environments, that sort of thing, they can connect directly to Teams as well. Intercoms is a big one. So if you have intercoms with door controllers, which were being served by an aging PBX, those two can now move into Microsoft Teams with the technologies that they have. Paging, there are companies that sell paging adapters that will directly link into Microsoft Teams. So you're able to keep your speakers around, but still be able to page to those from Microsoft Teams users, and things like visual alerters as well. So if it's a very loud environment and you have to show a visual alert when a call is being received or being made, you could do that. And things like ring detectors. So again, if it's a loud environment and you need to do something else when the Teams phone is ringing, that's something that can be picked up inside of Microsoft Teams and be delivered. I think next we're going to pass back to yourself, Andy, to talk around some real world examples.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Just going to try and furnish some of what we've been talking about with some real examples that we've done with our customer base. So we're very proud to work with and support some of the world's biggest organizations for their global telephony. And with that comes lots of benefits for them, we hope and believe, but also exposure from our perspective to some of those scenarios there that Zach's been talking through. So I'll just talk through a few scenarios as to how you can achieve perhaps this global rollout we've been talking about. So first customer, we've anonymized these customers for the purposes of this presentation today, given its relatively public nature. It's a global IT services firm. So this organization, very global, operating in 44 countries, had a self-imposed time frame that they wanted to deliver the project within. So to deliver to 15,000 users within 2 months, that is ambitious, given it's a large deployment number, large number of countries, and the different requirements country by country to obtain those numbers. So we looked at the best way of doing this and agreed with the customer, in fact, that they would take on an approach to adopt new numbers wherever possible. So that was their preference coming into the project. We were able to do it because of our regulatory approval in all of their locations. We were able to do it on Operator Connect, which is great. That was what they wanted. And really, you can only achieve this level of speed realistically by working with a partner that has the global coverage, such as LoopUp, that also has the processes and the experience of working internationally and helping project manage a deal of this size and scope in terms of geographic reach. Okay, the next one is a global conglomerate. So this one had a wide range of complex integrations, particularly pertaining to some Cisco workloads that were on premise that they'd been told by other carriers were not straightforward to get into Teams, and a hybrid environment was recommended. And actually, we were able to use our expertise, the flexibility that we've built in with our technology stack to help bring some of these workloads into Teams. And some of the cost savings that they realized as a result meant that they could retire rack space in data centers, they could retire expensive physical equipment, move to an optimized solution in the cloud. This customer also has GCC high tenant requirements. So again, you need to find a provider that can cover all of your business requirements, such as GCC high, to be able to deliver telephony as a single partner. Next up is a global law firm, slightly more progressive approach here. So this organization wanted to take a country by country approach to onboarding, clear in the end goal that they wanted to have that single provider, but not ready to do the big bang because central IT didn't feel like they had a good grasp on what local telephony was in country by country. So again, we worked with this provider on a commercial basis that was flexible, that accounted for that, not getting them to commit too much up front, but work with them as they went through a discovery process, site by site, onboarding and centralizing their telephony. They determined porting to be essential, as is often the case with organizations. So again, our expertise of working country to country on what the different requirements are, all nicely set out within the LoopUp One portal that we talked about earlier, helps smooth over that process, as well as integrating with fax, as Zach has mentioned previously, still do encounter that from time to time. And lastly, a global manufacturing firm who had lots of critical workloads on premise, but were expensive workloads that they were having to maintain and manage, often unsupported devices that present a risk to the business. So again, helping them bring integrations around paging, intercom, whether it's leveraging SBCs or ATAs to help bring those workloads into Microsoft Teams with the rest of their knowledge workers. So I think the experience that we have of these international deployments, really equip us well to help businesses go through this process of consolidation, not only for their knowledge workers, but also for any other workloads that may represent perceived challenges. And I think the final thing to say here, really, if this is done well with the right partner, and we believe LoopUp is the leading partner for multinational Teams phone deployments, this can be the last ever telephony deployment that you do. You can save money on telephony to focus your spend on more business-driven AI projects, co-pilot projects that can add real efficiency and value to your core business, and consolidate telephony with one partner in the form of LoopUp. So if you're going to be at Ignite, please do come and say hi. There'll be a good number of us there in green hoodies. So please say hi. But if you're watching this online and want to get in touch, please follow the links on our page, and we'll reach out and set up a call. Thanks for listening.
Cheers, everyone.